Right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our SSP webinar once again. Very much on the impacts around coronavirus. Seems to be very topical at this moment in time. This week, I'm lucky to be accompanied with Elle Butler from Easy As Marketing.
Hi everyone.
And Mark Gordon from InvestRight Wealth Management is here in the Rocky office, and Justin Nothling, InvestRight Wealth Management, is in our Yeppoon office.
G'day everybody.
So, hey look guys, I'm going to do my little bit first. I know you guys have heard some of this before. We're now getting a bit more information coming through. I'm just going to fly through some of the first bits of the presentation. It has been in the previous two presentations prior, but I've got a bit more of a question answer sort of section as well that might be able to help you out. So the first bit that I just want to talk about is the boost cash flow stuff. I think you guys are all starting to get the feel of what this one's all about. So really, it's a minimum payment of 20,000. There's a maximum of 100,000. We're talking about here on the pay-as-you-go withholding from salaries and wages. This one is calculated by the ATO. There's no need to register. Everyone asks me that one. You don't need to register for that one. It'll just happen once you do that BAS. So it'll get credited into the March, June or September BAS. The excess amounts will be refunded within 14 days. So what I mean by that is, so that if your GST bill or your BAS bill for that one is only 6,000, the minimum payment will be 10,000. Obviously, there's a credit amount of 4,000 that will come from the tax office within 14 days. No payments will be made before the 28th of April. That's probably the other question that everyone's asking us at the moment. The other one is don't forget the one for the apprenticeships incentive scheme. So they're still offering a 50% subsidy for those for the 9-month period going from the 1st of January to the 30th of September. The maximum subsidy amount is 21,000 per employee. You're only eligible if you've got less than 20 full-time employees. And you retain that apprentice or trainee. So you must retain that person as well. And that apprentice or trainee must have been in training as at the 1st of March 2020. On your screen there, and you'll get this as an email as well, but to register, there's a hyperlink there for you as well. JobKeeper. So everyone's sort of running around talking about this one, talking about the $1,500 a fortnight or $750 a week. Everyone's sort of referring it to. So this one's eligible to businesses and not-for-profit. That's the other question that we're getting a lot about is not-for-profit is also eligible for this one. It's there to support retaining employees. And that's why it's called the JobKeeper. The payment is $1,500 a fortnight, as long as the employee was employed as at the 1st of March 2020. Also, self-employed individuals are also eligible. So for those people who are sole traders, don't necessarily employ anyone, but sole traders, they also will be eligible for the JobKeeper payment. So some of the most common questions that we get, when will the JobKeeper payment commence? So this payment will be available from the 30th of March. So remember that you've got to register with the ATO, but it will commence and it will be available from the 30th of March. How long will the JobKeeper payment last? The JobKeeper payment will run until the 27th of September. So eligible from the 30th of March right through to the 27th of September. Is my business eligible? So remember that you've got to have a turnover less than $1 billion, which I'm assuming will take in most of the people that are listening in today. But the criteria that you've got to fall under is that it's your turnover. So your turnover of your business has to fall by 30% or more. For some people, it's fallen, 90%. Some people, it's fallen 40%, but it has to be a minimum of 30%. What do I need to do if I want to participate? So you have to register your interest. Now you can talk to us and we can register for you, or there's a hyperlink there that you can go through and generate your interest. So this program is actually also administered by the ATO. Just remember that they have all the information, especially through single touch payroll. So they know about the employees that you have already. And they will be asking you which employees you want to make eligible for it. How do I work out which of my employees are eligible employees? You'll only be able to claim the JobKeeper payment for eligible employees who were in your employment on the 1st of March 2020 and continued to be employed while they are claiming the JobKeeper payment. An eligible employee is someone who's currently employed, including those who have stood down and rehired. So that's the other situation that a lot of people are talking about. Some people might be not so much sacked, but they are stood down. So stood down employee, remembering, is someone who in the situation is that they are employed, you just have no work for them. They're full-time, part-time, casual on a regular basis for at least 12 months as at the 1st of March. So casual employees are also included on the list. The person has to be age 16 and older, Australian citizen, a resident of Australia, and is not getting a JobKeeper payment from another person. So that's the other question we get is, hey, look, this person works for 2 people. Are they eligible for both? No, the answer to that one is no. They can only get it from the one. So you need to talk to that employee about that. These payments should be, how do I pay this amount to my employees? So these payments should be made using your payroll system. And most of you guys will know it out there as your single touch payroll. If you don't report through the single touch payroll system, you can still claim the JobKeeper payment. However, you'll need to complete a manual claim form. So there for a while, we thought that the only way you could do this was through the single touch payroll system, but now they've extended it and there is a manual process that you can go through. What about the payments from the ATO? The first payment will be made by the ATO in the first week of May. So we're assuming that it's going to come very soon after, or we think that it's going to be around the 1st of May or thereafter. And these payments will be made by the ATO in arrears. So yes, you will have the employee employed, so they're paid to you in arrears. If I have stood down on my employee after the 1st of March 2020 and are no longer paying them, what do I do? To be eligible for the payments in relation to these employees, you'll need to pay them a minimum amount of $1,500 a fortnight for the payment periods of the JobKeeper scheme. The first payment is the 30th of March 2020 to the 12th of April 2020. You then need to continue to pay your employees a minimum of $1,500 a fortnight for the remainder of the scheme. So to be eligible, remember that you've got to have a reduction in your turnover of your business of 30%. So what is the definition of turnover? So for the purposes of the JobKeeper, turnover is the income that is reported on your BAS. It includes both GST inclusive and GST free supplies. So some people have GST free supplies as well. So just remember that it's what's recorded on your BAS. What if my business only just started? This is another big question that we've been getting over the last couple of weeks, especially if they have only employed people on a casual basis and it's only been, say, for example, 6 months. So the tax commissioner has the discretion to consider additional information that the business can provide to establish that has been adversely affected by the coronavirus. So they haven't been left out now. What if my turnover hasn't decreased by 30% this month, but I believe it will next month? So businesses can apply for the JobKeeper payment at a later time when the turnover test has been met. Where this happens, the JobKeeper payment is not backdated. Businesses can receive JobKeeper payments up until the 27th of September. So you mightn't necessarily, so I had a client who's actually had a pretty good March, but he knows that he's actually going to have no income in April. So for him, he will probably be able to apply from the 1st of March onwards. From the 1st of April, I should say, onwards. And therefore, he would be able to get his JobKeeper payments right through to the 27th of September. What if I normally pay my employee less than $1,500? So for instance, you might pay the person $1,000 a fortnight. Whilst receiving JobKeeper payment, you'll need to pay them $1,500 a fortnight before tax. So as I mentioned last week, I think I worked out fortnightly tax on $1,500 is about $192. But in this case, say for the example that I'm paying Adam $1,000 a fortnight, he will now receive $1,500 a fortnight. Superannuation guarantee will only be paid on the employee's ordinary wages. What if I normally pay my employees more than $1,500? You will pay your employees as you normally do and pay superannuation guarantee on the whole amount. So compared to the one previously where the money is actually JobKeeper payment money, in this case, you will be paying, say for example, the employee gets $2,000 a fortnight. You will continue to pay that $2,000 a fortnight. You'll get $1,500 from the ATO, and then in addition to that, you'll actually have the superannuation guarantee on the whole amount, on the whole $2,000. What happens if I don't have money to continue to pay my employees until the ATO payments are made? The JobKeeper payment is a reimbursement scheme that will be paid by the ATO monthly in arrears. In cases where this may present cash flow difficulties, please talk to your bank. The bank said that they will sort of accommodate people with helping them out just to get through those short periods, because remember that the money is eventually coming, it's just coming in arrears. What happens if my employee resigns? If an employee that you are receiving these payment for resigns, you must notify the ATO immediately. Once they resign, you are no longer eligible to receive the JobKeeper payment for them. I purchased a business recently. What about casual staff I inherited? So we've had this one a bit also. So this question's come up from a couple of clients just this week again. So employees must assess whether their employees satisfy the test of working 12 months on a regular basis. A casual may still meet these conditions even if the entity operating has recently changed. So you need to talk to those employees. You can probably have some information on it, especially if you bought the business, but yeah, just talk to the employee about whether they have been working for on a regular basis for 12 months. Will the ATO use the JobKeeper payment to offset the BAS debt? No, the payment will generally be paid directly to the employer and not used to offset tax liabilities. The idea of the payment is to support the employees. So don't get this one mixed up with the cash flow boost one. So the minimum $10,000. So it will offset any GST bill first, and if there's still a credit, you will get credited. This one's different. This one's straight for the employees. So it's basically reimbursing employers for the employees' wages. So this one will go directly to you regardless of ATO debt. My business is in a partnership. Can each partner receive the JobKeeper payment? No, in this case, you have to nominate just one partner to receive the JobKeeper payment. And if you have any eligible employees, you also nominate them as well. Can a trust receive the JobKeeper payment? Trust can receive the payments for any eligible employees. That doesn't change. Where beneficiaries only receive distributions, then only one individual beneficiary can be nominated for the payment. So in a trust, you actually have the owners or the people who benefit from the profits from that business are beneficiaries. So what the tax office is saying in this case, that only one individual is the person that can be nominated for that payment. Can company directors and shareholders receive the payment? If you are paid a dividend by a company for any labour provided, then you will receive the payment, but only one payment per company. So fairly unusual, but you do see the odd situation where sometimes some of the owners of the business, or in this case a company structure, might do all the work and receive dividends rather than a wage. So these guys would be eligible for it as well. The same applies for directors' fees. So sometimes in directors' fees, generally probably not paid until the end of the year. So if that's the case, one director would be the one that receives that JobKeeper payment. I will receive a wage subsidy through an employment service provider. Are we eligible for the JobKeeper payment? The answer to that one is yes. So where an employer receives a wage subsidy when they are engaged an employee, they still can claim the JobKeeper payment if they are eligible. So remember, you still got to meet the criteria, 30% reduction in turnover. But yes, in this situation, they would also be eligible for the JobKeeper payment. Can employers receive both JobKeeper payment and supporting apprentice and trainee wage subsidy? Yes. So for the period 1st of March to the 31st of March, and from the 1st of April, where they receive the JobKeeper payment, they aren't eligible to receive the apprentice or trainee wage subsidy. Just quickly recapping, we probably shouldn't forget these ones, but in the stimulus one especially, these were some of the other incentives that were provided. So remember that the instant write-off, so for small business entities, really up to a turnover now of 500 million, I think, from memory, they've increased the instant asset write-off from 30,000 to 150,000. So, hey, look, I'm going to buy a new tractor for 75,000. Prior to the introduction of Stimulus 1, you wouldn't have got the instant write-off because it was only capped at 30,000. Well, now it's 150,000. Also, the accelerated depreciation up until June 2021, I'm pretty sure that is. So any items over 150,000, you would get the 50% accelerated depreciation. So once again, the example I use, you buy a $200,000 tractor, you would get a 50% deduction straight up in that year, so $125,000 instant deduction. Don't forget, there's also the support, the household support scheme, which is the $750. Basically, it's those people who receive Centrelink payments, age pension, New Start allowance, those sort of things are getting those two $750 payments. I believe one of them is probably already paid from memory, but I think it come out on the 1st of April from memory. So those ones are also eligible for those guys. And the income support for individuals, So now that there's only the income test is available for those guys who are on New Start. So, not income test. It's the support payment is the $550 a fortnight is eligible for those who are on New Start. Queensland Government economic relief packages. They've got those low interest loans up to $250,000, 12 months interest free to help retain employees and maintain operations. Just remember that is a loan. Every time we've looked at this, we've just got to remember that it is a loan. You've got to pay it back. They've also got a small business hotline. There's a $500 rebate for energy. Bit of energy relief. The rent relief, it's been talked about a lot, but the rent relief that's in place from Queensland Government is if you rent state government building premises. And the payroll tax, so basically there's a holiday period for 3 months. I'm just going to talk about this at the end. I'm just going to hand it over to Justin. Justin, I hope you can hear us in the Yeppoon office there.
Sure can, Mark.
So I might hand it over to you.
Thanks, Mark. That was great. That was very informative, actually. Thank you. So, all right. Hello, everybody. I think I've met some of you across the traps through the years and that sort of thing, and hope everybody's staying safe and trying to run their businesses or their households the best they can. I probably just wanted to talk to everybody fairly generally, and I did ask that I went early in this seminar today because I thought that way people might have some questions that they might want to send in that I can either answer generally without, naming people, or perhaps it'll just twig things that people can call in about. But, no doubt everyone's probably quite concerned about their investments in general. And, most people, a big part of their wealth is tied up in their superannuation, which they've probably seen the valuation of that evaporate fairly quickly. In fact, it probably happened over the course of about a fortnight. It certainly caught myself off guard, but it certainly caught pretty much the whole world off guard, how rapidly this whole pandemic transpired. Certainly nothing I've ever seen in my lifetime, and hopefully nothing I'll ever see again. But we've seen markets go from basically an all-time high, both in Australia and internationally, to, dropping 30% in the course of about 10 days. In fact, in the US, there was quite a few trading sessions where they had to put on some circuit breakers and actually cease trading for a period of about half an hour or so, just to slow down the selling. And, never in my memory can I recall where the Dow Jones would fall by 2,000 points in a night and 10%. So it's been very, very rapid what's occurred. It's very unprecedented. Look, everyone's circumstances are obviously very unique, and certainly what I'm talking about today, is just very general in nature. But obviously, we've had a tremendous amount of calls from our clients, and I can honestly say that to date, we have had not one single client that we've converted their portfolio to cash. And that includes people that are quite elderly. But as I said, everyone's circumstances are unique, so please don't take that as exactly what you need to do for yourself. But you do need to remember that this is a pandemic that we will get through at some point in time, and hopefully life will return to some sort of normality. And the truth is that the horse has bolted, and if you did go crystallising losses within your super at this point in time, then you've really got to try and pick a time to go back into the market when the markets have already fallen by this far. You've probably seen that the Australian government is going to allow an early release of up to $20,000 for members for their superannuation, and that Kerry did talk about last week. That would be $10,000 for people wanting to access it before June 30, and then another $10,000 after July 1 next financial year. We've had quite a few phone calls about that, and there's quite a lot of media release on it. And, as much as I've just said, we're not converting any of our clients' money to cash, you've probably either got a situation where you might be looking to access that money for yourself, or more importantly, to help some of your employees that perhaps have taken a bit of a pay cut, and that's the thing, they may need to convert their money to cash. And if you are an employer, you're probably quite used to paying the money into a super fund, and it might be a super fund that the employee has selected, or it might be an industry-based fund that you've selected for all of your employees, and you pay it on behalf of them every week, every month, whatever it might be. Australian Super has released some stats, and they expect that of their 2.2 million members, 300,000 members will apply for that $20,000 withdrawal. Obviously, it's in two stages, amounting to about $6 billion. Australian Super has come out and said that they don't have or foresee any concerns in being able to make good on those withdrawals. But we've already seen now that both Host Plus and CBUS are two funds already that have basically put their hand up for help. And I do think that this might be the start of things to come. Host Plus has actually come out on Friday last week, and they've actually changed the terms and conditions for their policy document, and it now won't allow any members at all to do any switching from within the funds. And obviously that's protecting themselves, so that members can no longer switch from growth assets such as shares, international and Australian, and property across to cash. And at this point in time, they've actually ceased all withdrawals as well, so you can't actually access money from the fund. So I don't know where that leaves them in being able to honour the government's early release, but members of that fund may wish to start to seek some advice as to where they stand. There was a report written in the Financial Review about these guys on Monday, and it actually showed that as at Monday, they had over 36% of all the assets for the fund invested in illiquid, unlisted assets. So clearly that fund's going to have a problem for making good anyone that wants to access their money early. Ironically, Host Plus was the poster child super fund that the Barefoot Investor had written about for years, and no doubt they've got a lot of members now that they're going to get quite nervous. The other one that has already put their hand up for help as well is CBUS. And you've probably seen the ads on TV. They've been building buildings and that kind of thing. The theory with that was that they were supporting the industry that most of their members belong to. But the reality is now a lot of their members have lost their jobs. They've put it into buildings that you can't just crystallise very quickly to make good for withdrawals, or more importantly, you can't just convert to cash, which is what a lot of the members are asking. So we're going to see a lot of particularly the industry funds that are going to come under a lot more pressure, because it hasn't even started yet with the withdrawals. Because basically, if the people have lost their jobs, there's no further super contributions. With people switching out of the growth assets such as shares into cash, and withdrawals coming in the next couple of weeks, these guys are going to have a real liquidity squeeze, so it's going to have a big impact on the markets, and you're probably going to see, a lot more of it in the media. And unfortunately, it's going to be the longer term members of these funds, the guys that hang in there till the very end, that are probably going to pay the true consequences of staying loyal to it. So I guess where I'm heading is, if you think that yourself, your employers, or any of your family are looking to access this, the $10,000 early release, what I would suggest is you do get some advice for it, and you're certainly welcome to contact myself, Mark, or any of the team at InvestRight. I understand that you may not be clients of ours, but we're more than happy to help you in assisting you with it. Because if it was me, I would be looking to at least structuring my portfolio and getting that money across to cash now, because I do think that if you wait until June, or even in July next year, when you may want to try and get the next 10, you may not be able to make that conversion to cash or make the withdrawal. But secondly, you might find that the unlisted assets have been written down to true value by then, and it could be anywhere up to another 30 to 40% lower than what they're publicising now. So as I said, I would act on that sooner rather than later. And if you've got any questions at all in how you should be doing that, then as I said, give Mark, myself, or anybody at InvestRight a call about that anyway. So as I said, I might finish up with that, and maybe I've tweaked a few questions in regards to what you're thinking with your superannuation. If you want to type them in, that's fine, but otherwise, please feel free to give us a call at any time.
Thanks, Justin.
No worries, Mark.
Well, we might hand it over. Together, Mark, you want to have a bit of a chat about some advice structure?
Basically, I wanted to take this afternoon as an opportunity to introduce myself as part of Justin's team, and just sort of go through, probably from an advice perspective, how our sort of offering can potentially help people like yourselves. So our sort of advice offering, and mine in particular, probably offers significant value from the point of view that we are in a position to allow individuals, business owners and directors like yourself, the option of being able to outsource, but still remain connected to vital key components of your financial wealth accumulation and protection through a comprehensive advice approach. The basis of this advice offering, as I see that, the greatest value being that it allows you guys to maximise your own time and probably obtain where you can get the probably best return on your time investment, which is no doubt focusing on your profession and your business as the main source of activity. So the advice journey is pretty much in a sort of a fairly easy breakdown sequence. We always sort of begin first and foremost with establishing what is important to you and why is that important. And this sort of then allows us to sort of help develop some of those short, medium and long-term goals, particularly around timeframes on when you'd like to achieve this. Particularly relevant that we still sort of keep a focus and an eye on those sort of things in light of what's going on. From there, we'll sort of do some due diligence and analysis in finding the right strategies and solutions on how to get you there. And obviously a part of any sort of sound planning process is to review and adjust to make sure that you're staying on track to meet those things that are most important to you. The strategic benefits, obviously, of what we do and the benefit of this working relationship with us is, as I said, greater clarity and direction in terms of where and when and what's important to you. Probably a more informed and increased awareness in terms of some of the sort of important aspects of or measures or strategies that, or even investments that sort of form the vehicles to which we will get to those points for you. Our relationship is very much about trying to keep you connected and involved in the process. I've always seen part of my biggest strength as being able to communicate things at a level and in a fashion that's easily understood and understood with what you do, and therefore able to make sort of better informed decisions and, like I said, stay involved and connected. Throughout the process, obviously, it's working on a holistic fashion, and the goal behind that is to maximise all available opportunities, no matter how small or big they may be, to get you to that point that's important to you with the best avenues possible. So some of the areas that we can provide advice on, some of these may or may not relate to you. Things like personal protection, that's things like insurance protection, business insurance advice, estate and succession planning is probably more around the funding mechanisms that allow us to do that for you in conjunction with strategies that your accountants and tax advisors may advise you on. Superannuation and retirement planning. There's a range of strategies up there, guys, which I won't probably go into too much detail, but it gives you a glimpse in some of the sort of strategy areas that we can make progress towards those things that are most important to you. A little bit about myself. Apologies for the photograph. I wasn't blessed with some of the genes that some of us have these days with appearance, so I'm more than make up for that with my experience and qualifications in my role. I've been 15 years in the industry as a financial planner, 11 years of which has been as a senior business financial planner, specifically providing advice on directors, business owners and the like. So it's an area of advice and client interaction that I'm quite passionate about and thoroughly enjoy. I've got some very notable qualifications in business and financial planning, and currently studying 2 masters to sort of further my understanding and knowledge of various strategies and experiences to better assist people like yourself. So the next step in terms of where we sort of go from here is making an initial consultation appointment, gathering all your sort of relevant information in terms of a statement of financial position and the like before that appointment. The purpose, and this is probably an important point to note, the purpose of that sort of first meeting is for us to be able to conduct a value assessment and determine whether we can actually add value to your situation. One of my sort of bugbears and sort of any sort of industry is charging for the sake of charging. If we can't create or add value to a situation, we'll say quite easily and quite simply during some stage during that appointment that we can't add any additional value to your situation at this stage. That may change down the track. But if it is a case where we can see some value and can improve your situation or where you want to be moving forward, well then obviously that will then trigger a discussion around beginning in the advice process. And that's my sort of, our sort of advice offering in a nutshell, guys. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. My sort of firm belief is the silly thing is not to ask rather than to ask, because you'd be surprised at how the smallest question can reveal the biggest threat or the even bigger opportunity from someone's situation by simply asking a question that, in all honesty, probably everyone in the room or everyone on the webinar this afternoon has probably got in the back of their mind as well. So I'll probably turn things back over to Mark Swaffield, that is.
Very good. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's interesting times, hey, with investing anyway at the moment. A lot of people obviously have had huge reductions in their superannuation balances, and other people are looking for opportunities to get into the market. So next I'm going to introduce you to Elle from Easy As Marketing. Elle has a hell of a lot of experience in the marketing world, especially in the digital and social space. And I believe that's what Elle's going to talk to you guys about, especially as we're all probably being compounded to sitting at home. So it does give us opportunities to look at our business and reassess maybe some of our digital space and our social space.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark and Shanahan Swaffield Partners, thank you so much for the invitation to speak this afternoon. Of course, the world of marketing is so vast that it was a little bit daunting to go, well, what are you guys going to get best value out of? But I've picked out just to have a talk about Google My Business, because that is something that is really, really powerful. It's free and it is either not done or not done well. So hopefully you'll get just some tips to take out of this that will just help you with your business, or if you're someone who has an employee who's not fully engaged, needs something more to do, it's a good activity for them to be able to do. So what is GMB, or Google My Business? It is essentially your business page on Google. It can include their free website, and it also highlights products, services, opening hours, and they are very, very focused on local. Now, you'll have a look at the part I've got circled there. As you can imagine, the digital area is very, very competitive. So being found for websites, which is one of the things that I do, is quite daunting. However, Websites Rockhampton, that's me. I actually started it's like an arm of the business, and I actually started it in about October, I think, to prove that this actually works. So I actually did what I'm about to tell you, have not paid any paid advertising to get it there. And when you Google Websites Rockhampton, it comes up first in what's called the map pack, and I'm going to talk about that. If you haven't come across this before and you need to go, well, how do I get mine? Go to business.google.com and follow the bouncing ball. It will take you through step by step what to do there. And obviously, stating the obvious, nearly everyone searches online if they're looking for a product or service. So if you want to be there, this is a really easy way to allow people to find you. So this is not about getting your website onto page 1 of Google, and you see a lot of people telling you that that's what has to happen. You may not even need a website. You can do this without a website. It is about your business being found before your competitors by people who are actually looking for your products and services. There's a couple of things you'll need to do. And just to keep in mind, it's not just a set and forget. When I say optimize, if it asks you to fill something in, fill it in. If it asks you what your business hours are, put them in. If it asks you what your phone number is, put them in. If it asks you for interior office photos, put them in. Team photos, put them in. It really does. Google loves Google. So if it gives them more data in there to help you, that's what they want. One of the key things you need to do is get verification. So once you have set it all up and you're putting in your regular content about what's happening in your business, what specials you might have, a little bits of information, you will need to get it verified. It will, again, will take you through the process. Other than getting it set up, don't proceed past that until you've got it verified, because sometimes, for any number of reasons only known by Google, it actually cancels some new Google My Business pages, so you sometimes have to start again. So you don't want to go too much further until you've got that verification. Google wants to know that you're real. The other thing that's really important is getting some quality reviews from your clientele or customers, so that it really makes that Google My Business page or GMB even more powerful. So ultimately, Google wants anybody who's looking on their platform to make it really easy for them, because they know if it's too hard, that people won't keep coming back. So they want you to be really easy to contact. Put your email on there, put your phone number on there, put your website if you've got one. Make it really, really easy for people who are there to contact you. Action the steps that I'm going to go through on the next slides, so that will help you appear before your competitors. You can to your website if you have one, or as I said, Google loves Google, so they have their own built-in website. And just as a side, I actually recommend both. Have your own website, but use the Google one as well. One thing that has changed recently, so most people would be aware, you can go on and you can buy stock images off the internet. Google does not like those on your Google My Business page. So they want real photos. Take photos of your people, real people. Take photos inside your office, or if you're somebody who goes to clients, take photos at the client appointment. There's a thing called geotagging, which just means a piece of code in your digital image that tells Google where the photo was taken. It does track. So if you're a business based in Rockhampton and you've got an image that was taken in the middle of Paris, Google goes, yeah, nah. And it will penalise your reach because of that. And don't forget, as well as those reviews, to get your clients to share their images as well. Okay, the one thing I do want to stress, and this is your points that you need to do, even if you don't operate from a physical office, put it in there. Google wants to have a physical address for you, so that it can geotag, so it can identify everything there. You still say that you're serving an area, and you can hide it so that it doesn't display, but Google wants to know. It just wants to know, are you a real business? Not because it wants to spy on you, but because it wants to keep its data clean. It wants to know that if someone is searching for, say, Websites Rockhampton, and they find Websites Rockhampton, that's a real business, that when they approach that business, the people who've done the searching are going to get the answers that they want. They want to be able to find it quickly, easily, and accurately. As I said earlier, make sure you build out your Google business page as fully as possible. Use video. Again, don't use stock video. Take a video with your phone and upload it. Take images, put in your hours, put in your content. This is the key, and this is where you can keep your staff that you're not sure what to do when they've done all their work and they're still working from home. Google directories for your industry, and then submit your physical address to those directories. Make sure that it is exactly as you've written it on your Google page. So Google will link it all. Also put in your phone number and your contact details exactly as you have on your Google My Business page. Google loves that. The more directories, the standard term or the jargon is citations, but the more directories that you are out there, Google gives it even more power. Make sure that you use the Google power. If you've got a YouTube channel, link the videos through to your Google business page and vice versa. And use Google Docs. They're free, they're online. Put the links in there, link them back in your Google business page. If you use Google, Google loves you, and Google will share you out to more people. So those three, steps 4, 5, and 6, are the ones that are generally not done at all. And number 3, not done very well. So if you can get that Google My Business page up and running, you too can jump in the map pack above all of your competitors. I do hope you've found some value out of that. thank you for sharing your time with me. If you want to reach out, you can get me on Facebook or Google, easy as marketing. Happy to answer any questions, digital marketing. And I'm sorry, I am a marketer. I have to give you a special offer. I am currently gifting, just to give my wonderful accountant a headache, I am gifting a total in excess of $100,000 worth of websites. If anyone's been affected by coronavirus, needs to get online, digital, e-commerce, learning platform, teaching, presentation, coaching, whatever it is. There is an ongoing maintenance and management plan, but the build cost of it is being gifted. So if you're interested in something like that, allthesales.com.au, and you'll find that there. I'll hand back
Wonderful.
to Mark. You've got some questions happening there.
Yeah, by all means. Hey, look, guys, if you've got any questions, please write them on the on Zoom. I believe Mark in the office actually here has a question for you.
Probably not so much a question, but just some supporting commentary around some of the key aspects and themes that you talked about. Just coming from my own sort of master's degree study, some aspects really sort of stood out, and I wanted to sort of make some supporting commentary to maybe reinforce some of those themes that you sort of clearly, very clearly, clearly articulated. Innovation and differentiation are key aspects, during good times as well as challenging ones.
Definitely.
So what you talked about in terms of not necessarily being on page one of Google, but being able to deliver your service or message before your competitors is probably when you said that innovation and differentiation from your competitors.
Absolutely. Well, I did it in a fairly strong market,
Yeah.
in a very, very competitive market, just to prove that, yeah, this works.
Yeah. The other aspect is probably around there is perfection in imperfection with
Yes.
regards to photos and videos with regards to your business. I've known some from my studies, certainly a lot of the younger generations, more like the millennials and whatnot, certainly are more receptive to real and genuine content.
They are.
And I think that we can all say, from regardless of whatever age group that you're in, that some of the most memorable sort of marketing and advertising campaigns are ones that have resonated with us the most because of their authenticity. And that's probably a message well delivered this afternoon by you, Elle. So.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. So, guys, we're going to get to the questions and answers section of our presentation. Andy, thank you for your two questions. Actually, I'll answer the first one. When does the cash injection happen? So I'm going to answer it a little bit the long way, but just so that I can give me a chance to give everyone a chance to recap on it. So just remember that the cash injection, everyone remembers this as the minimum 10,000 or 20,000. It's the $20,000 amount. So remember that you've got to lodge your BAS. So, 31st of March is now gone. Some people are in the practice some of our clients have already sent their BAS in to get it lodged. So you've got to lodge your BAS. Remember that the minimum payment is $20,000 and it's over 2 payments of $10,000. So your question was more around when does it happen? So the first payment will happen on the 28th of April. When we send these notes out to you, Andy, you'll see that on page 3 if you've got a pen there. The second payment, I'm pretty sure it will happen on the 28th of July. So you'll need to lodge the June quarter BAS for that one, and you will get it, I believe, at the end of July. The second question you had there is when a sole trader has suffered a huge loss of income and gets the JobKeeper payment to retain an employee, what can the sole trader get when he has no income as sales have ceased? So a sole trader is also eligible. So the legislation, the commentary, I should say, because it's not confirmed legislation yet, but the commentary all says that self-employed people are also eligible for this. So just remember, you're talking about sales have ceased, but just remember that it just has to have a reduction of 30%. So in the case where you've got the sole trader, the owner of the business, and the employee, your registration will be for 2 people. So just remember, you got to do your registration process as well for this one. So the job keeper, you have to do a registration. The cash boost one will automatically happen as a result of lodging your BASs. Denise, thank you also for your question. I've submitted my BAS every 3 months. How will the monthly amounts be calculated for me to apply for the JobKeeper when my turnover reduces by 30%? I just want to make sure you haven't got this one mixed up with the cash boost as well as a JobKeeper, because remember that the cash boost payment, which is remember the 2 $10,000 amounts, is on the lodgement of your BASs. So, but I'm assuming your question was more around the JobKeeper one. And so remember that the JobKeeper is really all in around keeping that employee. So the tax office have a lot of information on those employees through the single touch payroll system. So I think your question was more around how does it apply? So I probably didn't really go through this really well in the notes. So that, let's say, for example, you've got to compare the same period as the same period last year. So let me take an example. So we've just had March. So if you have a look at your March compared to March of 19, so March 2020 compared to March 19, and if you've had a reduction of 30%, register because you'll be eligible for that JobKeeper payment. Now, you don't actually have to do 1 month, but the minimum is that you got to do a month. So you might look at, say, January to March of this year and compare it to January of March last year. And if you've got that 30% reduction in that period over those 2, then you can register and apply. I'm assuming that we don't have the detail yet, but I'm assuming when you register, they'll send you out basically a bit like an application form and you'll submit all these details from there. I've got an additional question here, a question around employee accessing super. We both employ, we employ both sponsored workers and working holiday makers. Are either of these groups eligible to access their super? So just remember, if you've been affected by the coronavirus and you want to access the $10,000 super, so remember that it's in 2 payments. There's $10,000 in this financial year and $10,000 in the next financial year. So this one, you just have to make sure that you get your application, and that application is done through the MyGov account. So please get onto MyGov and do your application process through there. So the ATO will then contact the superannuation fund, give them the eligibility criteria to release that money to that super fund, because generally for release of superannuation, you have to basically be retired. So this gives the super fund the opportunity then to release that $10,000. So just remember that one is between now and the 30th of June. And then the next one, it can be from the 1st of July onwards. So that's where they're saying that it comes over 2 financial years. Thank you very much for those questions. Look, we're going to send this presentation out to everyone that's participated here today. Sorry. Oh, and it's also on YouTube. Can I just quickly go back to the presentation? Just gives me one quick opportunity to talk about cash flow projection budgets. We're probably getting a lot of questions now. For you guys out there in small business, you know, you're starting to feel the effect of some cash flow constraints. I would just say to you guys, there's probably 5 important factors here. the first thing you want to probably do is just analyse some past performances. So you might want to use your past performance as a template to sort of create yourself a budget. If one thing that this does, if it helps businesses create a budget, I think it's going to be a good thing. So look, create your template from your past performance. Have a look at last year's figures and use that as basically a goal to try and ascertain. And then maybe set some of those goals. You know that your business has suffered from the coronavirus, so you might have to lower that income, but set some realistic goals around that as well. And maybe that might give you opportunity to look at to see whether you can generate additional income from different sources or other sources or the likes. And also, look at what deferral payments that you make. So once you put your budget together and you realise that you might be cash flow deficient, maybe you can look at some deferral payments. The banks are putting those offers out at the moment for all loans to have a holiday period. So look at that as an opportunity as well. And the other big one is just around rent. So negotiate your rent reduction as well. And by putting it in the budget, we'll be able to tell you what rent that you might be able to afford. Also, the ATO have been very obliging as far as paying, your BAS bill, your GST, or even it might be income tax. So just look at a payment plan within your budget that you can sustain to get it through over a longer period rather than a short period. I think what this budget will do for you also is you'll probably be able to establish some sort of break-even point. I get really concerned when people only work out what their break-even point is when their cash runs out in their bank account. I think that's very dangerous. I think you've got to be really quite careful there. And then finally, the last thing to do is monitor the performance. So each month, include those actual data. Once you've created your budget, go and put the actual data against it. And it might give you some guide of what you could be budgeting for the future as well. So you can then maybe alter some of your future projections that you've got going on. So SSP, we actually offer a business advisory service here. The first thing that we do with our business advisory clients is we actually do look at budgets and actuals. That's every meeting. We find it the most important one. There's an old saying there, cash is king. So make sure you always concentrate on your cash flow. If you want a hand or assistance with any of your cash flow projections and do some budgets, by all means, please give us a yell here. Guys, I think that's all the questions. Once again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Elle. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And hey, look, we will be back next week. As I keep saying each meeting, we will continue these until you guys don't want us to continue, really, because information's coming out all the time as well. So as more information comes out, we can share it with you as well. Thank you very much for your time again. Cheers, eh?